Digital 410 Productions proudly presents the Fail to Fail podcast with your host, Don Abernathy.
What's going on, everybody? It's another, what night is it? It's a Thursday night, third podcast of the week. Forgive me. Welcome to another episode of the Fail to Fail podcast, the Digital 410 Network's limited series podcast. We want to we appreciate everybody hanging out with us for another episode. Get your little fix of motivation. Maybe we can help you get to where you want to go, whether it's career, fitness, just all around motivation. We're trying to get your life heading in the right direction. But we have a very special guest. We've been kind of on a kick here in the Fail to Fail podcast lately, and that is we've been having a series of OCR racers, long distance racers, and American Ninja Warriors and the like. And joining us tonight is no different. Interestingly enough, I met this young lady at the Rugged Maniac event because of the shirt she had on, but we'll get to that here shortly. Joining us tonight, Miss Alyssa Hartranft. Did I get that right, Alyssa?
Yes, you've got it perfect.
Hartranft. Fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, before we get into what we're going to get into, one of the things I like to do, and the nice thing about doing a long-form podcast like this is we don't have to rush through an interview, try to get all the plugs out and everything in 15, 20 minutes. We can do a long-format interview and allow the audience to get to know you, and allow me, the host, to get to know you as well. So let's go back a little ways. Where did you grow up, and how did we get to where we're at today? I guess maybe where did you grow up, and what do you do for a living? And then we'll get into the fitness and motivation here momentarily.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm from Pennsylvania, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area. I feel like most people will reference The Office for that. But tiny little town called Mountaintop where I grew up. And then about 3.5 years ago, I moved to Harrisburg, which always surprises people that it is, in fact, the capital of Pennsylvania. That's not Philly.
How far from Seven Springs are you?
Seven Springs. Is it bad? I don't even know where that is.
It's like the well, let me rewind. 23 years ago, it was the ski resort in Pennsylvania. I grew up in Ohio.
Yeah.
And in Ohio, we didn't have any real ski hills. We had hills with man-made snow. And so in high school, in our ski club, once a year, if we really wanted to have fun, we'd go to Seven Springs, Pennsylvania for the weekend and go riding out there because you guys had more hills than we did in the flat state known as Ohio. So
yeah, so I'm wondering if that's more Western PA since you're
probably
in Ohio, because I'm like South Central.
Gotcha.
So Pittsburgh for me is probably 4 hours.
Let's go Pens.
Yeah.
It's so funny. My classmates give me such a hard time because they're like, why aren't you a Blue Jackets fan? I'm like, because I left Ohio 2001. That's the year they came. I've been a Penguins fan since middle school. I owe nothing to the Blue Jackets. They weren't around when I was.
Right.
So I left Columbus in 2001. That's the year they came. So growing up, were you into running? Were you on the track team? Or is this something you acquired late in life?
So, yeah, no, I was not a runner. I played basketball as I guess soccer, was my first sport, but basketball all throughout middle school and high school. And then I took volleyball actually the most serious. So I have been volleyball player converted to runner only recently. I gave up volleyball kind of for good. I retired back in 2019 after I had a knee injury, and I haven't gone back. I do miss it, but that was just it was such a big part of my life back then. But I almost feel like I'm kind of just over that part, and I just needed something new.
Did you play at the collegiate level, or were you just playing in high school and then just for fun after high school?
Yeah, so I played at the college level as well. I was a setter in college, and then even after college, we would travel to play tournaments, whether it was women's or co-ed. They do a national series as well that people from all over the country travel to just compete against teams from around the country. So we try to do that once a year. So it was very time consuming for me. That was every weekend of my life.
I would imagine playing, as you guys tend to do in gymnasiums and on basketball courts, people think, well, it's the same movement. No, it's not. Basketball players go down, stop, they'll pick and moves, but volleyball, it's a lot of back and forth, short strokes front and back, maybe short, long distances. I would imagine compared to versus playing outdoor volleyball that you guys would tend to maybe twist an ankle or hyperextend a knee more often than you would in the outdoor environment. Or am I just making that up?
So I played indoor and outdoor. In Pennsylvania, we obviously don't have a beach, so there's a lot of grass tournaments where we're from. So, I mean, would I say I rolled my ankle more or less indoor, outdoor? No, I injured my knee outdoor, and it was just like a freak injury, honestly. Um, but I wouldn't say necessarily that injury rate's higher. I mean, you have the whole under the net collisions still happen whether you're playing
Sure.
indoor or outdoor. So, and the rules are a little bit different, which I guess can maybe open up that gate, so to speak, for injury. But I only ever seriously injured myself in volleyball once when I tore my shoulder, and it was completely preventable, but it is what it is.
Full, was it the rotator cuff or just a full blown shoulder injury?
No, so I tore my labrum.
Oh, okay.
So I needed to have surgery on it. And oddly enough, as soon as I gave up volleyball, my shoulders never felt better.
So after college, you gave up on the volleyball. What do you do for a living now? Because I mean, I know, but for the audience sake, because I like to get people's background so that people can say, okay, well, regardless of what people do for a living, they have interesting hobbies, or wow, I never figured someone does that for a living would do this. So what is your
Right.
daily gig?
So I'm a physician assistant. I work in the emergency departments. I work full time. So I do a lot of swing shifts, and I work weekends, holidays, nights, you name it. So that makes training interesting sometimes.
Well, that was kind of the point I was hoping we'd get to, because I was watching an interesting TikTok video today where this gentleman, probably I'd say in his early 60s, huge guy, just brick shit house. He was just going around the gym asking, hey, what do you do? How many hours a week do you work? Huh? Not the gym. How many hours? Oh, 60 hours a week. Or how many hours a day? 12 hours. His whole point was, you know, people's number one excuse to why they can't work on their fitness or diet or exercises, I don't have enough time. So he was basically just, without any real setup, just, hey, here's 6 people I don't know at random at the gym. They all work 60, 70 hours a week, yet, and he would say, and yet you're still here. So it is kind of the hardest part, but you just have to find time. And
Right.
it's funny. It's like, well, you always find time for things you want to do. You got to figure out how to find time for the things you don't want to do. And that's the hardest part about staying motivated and getting things done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially as you get older and you have careers and families and this and that. Me, myself, after 18 years of running my own IT firm and making my own schedule, which over the last 2 years, that schedule got a little less compressed and I had more time to do things because I was working less. But I'm at the end of my 3rd week of my new career. I went from working 9 to 5, sometimes 9 to 1, depending how slow we were during the pandemic. Now I'm working 8 to 5 every day, which means I got to get up early because now I'm no longer my own boss. And I have to find time now to, after all these years of having a schedule, now I'm like, well, now I got to find time to readjust my gym schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, I started the Monday after the Rugged Maniac that was in Tampa. And I was so busy, as I said in my YouTube video, I was so busy closing down my business because I signed up for the Rugged Maniac back in, I don't know, January. No, like a week after Rugged Maniac last year when they send you the, hey, sign up for cheap now. Okay.
Yeah.
So you sign up for 11 months in advance and you forget about it. And so I'm closing down. I'm getting ready to start my new career, this and that. And I get an email. Here's your parking pass. Oh, yeah. That thing I haven't been training for because I've just been too busy. But I went and did it. It was my first time elite. I did not do as good as I was hoping to just because I didn't train, but I'll get all that back to that in a moment. The reason I bring that up is just this week, after 3rd week of starting my new career, my whole new schedule, I haven't been to the gym yet, but I have been getting up an hour early before work and been hitting my mixed fitness bike, doing all that. And so now I'm slowly getting my morning workout schedule in play, and now I got to start putting my runs back in because I used to run 4 or 5 days a week, go to the gym on the off days, and if I didn't run, I'd get on the bike or do the bike before running and all that. And that's one of the hardest things you got to do. But once again, people confuse diet. They say it's a diet. No, it's a lifestyle change.
Yes.
If you want to do, if you're looking to lose weight, you can't go on a diet. You got to do a lifestyle change. If you want to start going to the gym or riding a bike or walking in the neighborhood, whatever it is, you have to kind of force yourself. And the way I used to force myself doing IT work every day, because my schedule is made up of a series of jobs. I had to be at this place at this time to do this thing, this place at this time. And so I always considered the going to the gym or running 3 miles or getting on the bike, that's just one more job I have to complete before my day is through. And I guess the secret to that is everybody who has their full-time job and busy schedule, you just kind of have to figure out a way to whether it's trick yourself, convince yourself, or just realize this isn't an option. I just have to do it and get in that mind state. How does somebody with you with changing schedules? I mean, you work in an ER. You don't have, oh, I work these days every single day of the week, every month. It's every week's different. How do you maintain the ability to keep your training schedule up?
Yeah, so I think the key, this isn't a one size fits all answer, and I have this conversation with a lot of people. The biggest thing is consistency, and you have to figure out for yourself what's going to make you and your current kind of life consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, and this ultimately ends up surprising people too, is I don't even go to a gym. I work out in my basement, in my garage. I have basically up to 40-pound dumbbells as far as like strength training stuff. I have a pull-up bar, some just kind of basic essentials, and I make it work. I do use like the Beachbody programs. They've really come a long way over the years where, you know, there's this new trainer who really focuses on training athletes. And I honestly give him a lot of credit for just me developing my upper body strength over the past, 3 years.
Sure.
And that I found that works for me because I don't have to worry about coming home from work and worrying about getting to a gym, and like my hours are so all over the place that I would have to rely on a 24-hour gym if that were the case. So this has just kind of worked for me, and it's to the point now where I'm so consistent, and it's just become such a routine, like in the back of my head, that I have to remind myself sometimes to take days off. But yeah, so everyone has to just, like I said, find what works for them. Some people that is the gym. Some people are like me, it's home stuff. You're wearing the Savage Race shirt there. Savage Anywhere is another program that's come out that a lot of people have been using to try to get ready.
I did one during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's the nice thing about the Savage Anywhere, and I did a Spartan virtual race as well. I'm not a big fan on these virtual races because when I say that, I don't mean the Spartan and the Savage. I mean, but there's a lot of these, oh, you send us $20, we'll send you a medal and a bib, and whether you do it or not, you get the medal and a bib. And to me, that's kind of cheating. To me, I'd almost wish, okay, you sign up, we send you the bib, you track it, and then once you submit your data, then we'll send you but whatever, it's fine. People making money. What I loved about the Savage and the Spartan virtual is it was almost a way for them to teach you how to expand your workout regimen. You're like, especially with the Savage Anywhere, so it's like I've never incorporated 30 burpees into my regular garage gym workouts.
Mm-hmm.
The one I did had to do you had to do the car push.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a World War II reenactor. My other podcast is a World War II podcast, and I have a YouTube channel. I'm thinking, I don't want to push a car. That's boring. How can I make this more interesting? Well, just so happens a guy that I know owns a World War II Jeep. So he drove it over where I go fishing. He had his 30 cal machine gun on it. He sat in it. I set my GoPro at the end of the street, and I literally pushed a 1943 World War II Jeep up and down the street until I met the requirements of that Savage Anywhere. And so just doing that sort of thing, I'll tell you, doing those 14 exercises in those 28 days, it sounds easy, but once again, when you got a full-time work schedule, you got kids, this and that, it's like, okay, I really need to do one today, but I'll just have to push it till tomorrow and maybe do 1.5, but I got it done. And I really wanted to keep some of those different routines and work those into my regular workout. Now, for the audience at home, like, well, we don't even know what the hell you're talking about. What does Alyssa need to work on her upper arm strength and her grip strength for? So let's go down that road a little bit. You got done with volleyball. Mm-hmm. How did you get into running?
Well, this is a very simple story, I guess. So when I got into grad school, I basically was no longer a college athlete, and I was in class 12 hours a day, and I basically just kind of lost who I was. And sure. I didn't like that because I knew like I was always just meant to be an athlete, so to speak. So my roommate and I, shout out to Nicole, but her and I were kind of in the same predicament where we just felt like we kind of lost our edge and we wanted to get it back. So at the time, my friend Billy, who just started getting into running around that time, he had told us like, hey, you guys should like look into this Tough Mudder thing. And we're like, sure. So we made that our end goal. And to train for it, we did the 60-day like insanity program for those who are familiar with Sean T.
Yeah.
That was like our training. So we made time every single night despite
So
our crazy class schedule. We did the insanity workout.
You went from playing volleyball to not doing anything, being kind of, I don't know how far that span of time was since you...
It was a short span. Like I wasn't completely out of shape, but in all fairness, insanity was easily the hardest thing at that time I've ever done in my life.
As the name implies, it's not called the crazy workout. Now,
Yeah.
Now, let me pause real quick. For me, it was, I never played high school sports. I skateboard for 18 years. As I said before, I snowboard for 13 years. I always had a title. I was a skateboarder. I was a snowboarder. You were a volleyball player. You were an athlete.
Yes.
And then you get to that point in your life where you lose that title. Now you're just an adult who works. As crazy as it sounds to people who maybe never had a title per se, even if it's not an official title, to me that was kind of, I didn't realize it until I got into running. And how I got into running is 2 kidney stones and 60 pounds later, after I was always the tallest cat in my class, and I always looked like I had a heroin addiction. Up until I was 21, I weighed $175, and I'm 6'5". So imagine 6'5", 21-year-old at 175 pounds.
Yeah.
People just assumed he was a drug addict. No, I had a fast metabolism. But as things happen when you get older, and you sit around and play Xbox for 8 hours a day, and you have a computer job sitting on your ass, you gain quite a bit of weight. Plus, at the time, I was working the computer gig plus working in radio 4 hours a day. Did that for 6 years. So I was getting up at 5, working until 9 o'clock at night. So I was hammering the Monster Energy drinks, the Mountain Dews, the 5-hour energy drink, and just destroying my kidneys. And so 2 kidney stones and 60 pounds later, I said, okay, I'm shopping for a size 38 pant. This is insane. I need a change. And as I said, a lifestyle change. Cut out all the soda, went straight water and Gatorade. Did that for a year, start going to the gym. I have an addictive personality, so I got to the point where I was going to the gym twice a day. I was hitting in the morning, hitting it at night, not realizing that a gym is not a weight loss solution. A gym is a bulk up solution. So the weight wasn't falling off as quick as I would want it to, but the arms and those areas were starting to show some changes, so I was happy with that. But I blew out my elbow. And now I was like, well, shit, what am I going to do to keep from gaining this weight back? And at that time, I would get on the treadmill, suffer through 10 minutes. Never even do a 10-minute mile, just suffer through treadmill. But finally one day I just ran around my neighborhood. And I realized, oh, shit, running outside is easier than running on a treadmill, because on a treadmill, your body's trying to match whatever speed that the motor on the treadmill is going, and it's either a millimeter too fast or just a little too... I can never find that comfortable pace on a treadmill. Not to mention you're staring at a wall or TV. And I have discovered through running that running is 60% the view. So if you're tired of running, change your location and you'll get enthused with running again. And so I started running so much that I was going to I went from going to the gym twice a day, 5 days a week, to going once a week, but I was running 4 or 5 days a week. And then all the weight just started dropping off. I was like, oh, that's how this works. Cardio. Yeah. Cardio is the way to go. But as I got older, I'm 43 now. As you get older, you start getting slower. But what I discovered, and what a lot of cats discover, which is why you see a lot of older people running long distances, you may not run faster, but you can work on your stamina and work on your distance. And so before I know it, I'm running 12 miles, 14 miles, and all that. And but yeah, the running thing, it was really weird to get into.
Yeah, I agree.
And I remember the first time I did my 5K, the first time I ran with a large group, I'd run with, 5 or 6 people here and there. First time I ran with a large group, that pack instinct that you didn't know you had kicks in. And like your body's automatically, okay, I know I can run faster than this person. I can't run faster than that person. I could probably hang with this person. So you almost find your natural place in that large pack at the beginning of the race until people finally break off, which I always find is interesting. But you and your friends, basically, you started training for a Tough Mudder.
Yeah. So we, did the whole insanity thing, and my first Tough Mudder experience, like, it was eye-opening. It was definitely at that time for me, like, just very difficult. It was very humbling in a way. But I loved it. Like, I loved the race atmosphere. I loved that complete strangers on the course were, cheering you on. Like, there's just something different, I think, about the racing community in general, and that goes for any racing. I don't care if it's OCR or marathon,
Or running with 5 people downtown on a Sunday, and you run past other runners, and they all give you the thumbs up and that knowing nod.
yeah, it's just different.
Now,
So
from what I understand, isn't Tough Mudder more of a group race where it's like you almost need one or two other people with you versus a Savage or a Spartan where you can get through all the obstacles on your own?
yeah, absolutely. Tough Mudder is definitely aimed at that kind of teamwork approach for sure. At the time, we ran with like I think there were 6 of us. So yeah.
And so you finished your Tough Mudder. Now, were you like most people, the first, whether it's a 5K, 10K, OCR, were you finding yourself signing up for another one the very next day? Or did you like, wow, that sucked and I'm out of shape?
No, like I said, it was very humbling. But I like loved it, and that like opened my eyes. That year though is when I first discovered Savage, and I signed up for my first Savage race. And to be honest, like I would run probably 1, maybe 2 OCRs a year because even post grad school, like I was still actively playing volleyball. That was still like my number one, really, like I said, up until about 2019 when I hurt my knee. And that was really, and so I would do like 1 or 2, usually Savage race in Pennsylvania, like that was our go-to every year, just to kind of switch it up.
I never knew they got that far north. I always thought they're kind
Yeah.
of a southeast, because I know they
Yeah.
do Georgia and Ohio, but I never knew they did Pennsylvania.
Yeah, they do PA. They have 2 Maryland events. Maryland's actually 2 weeks from now. So I guess that's still pretty north. But yeah, so that was kind of our, like once a year we would do a Savage, maybe throw in a Tough Mudder, Warrior Dash when that was a thing back in the day. I did 1 Spartan back in 2015, and that was easily the worst day of my life. And that was actually probably the most humbling day because it was at Palmerton.
Oh, wow. Did you ever do Bone Frog when it was a thing?
No, and I actually looked into it this year because I think it's like their last year or whatever, and just none of the dates worked out with my work and race schedule because I always wanted to try one, but
Did you see on YouTube about 3 years ago when Spartan teamed up with, I think, ESPN?
yeah.
And
yeah.
they did that one season. It was fantastic. It was exciting to watch. They had the money behind them. They had the film crews behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they had the Spartan games this year, which was fun. And the ones from last year was fun. And Savage has done a really good job with OCR. Who was that? OCR Media. Oh, I can't believe I went blank on his podcast. But what Savage has been doing with their live stream was great. But the problem is most of those events are out in no man's land. And when you're trying to live stream through cell phone signal, unless you get a T-Mobile or Verizon to sponsor the event and bring out signal boosting trucks, it's really hard to get that quality, which is why Spartan pre-records all their stuff so that they can edit through it. But I bring it up because I think if, whether it's Spartan or Savage, if one of them were to team up with an ESPN again and get that on the major network, I think the OCR would, I mean, it's pretty big now, but I think as far as general knowledge, I think that TV exposure, because it's so more exciting to watch than just a regular race. Because a regular race, you say, okay, the first 4 people, they're the fastest on the field, unless one of them trips over something or throws an ankle, one of those 3 people are going to win. But in an OCR race, you never know, because person might be running 5-minute miles, but they don't have the obstacle proficiency. Someone who runs slower but has better obstacle proficiency, or someone slips, in the case of a Spartan, has to go do burpees, and all of a sudden they've been in the lead the entire race, and now they're in 3rd place. And so you never know, unless Lindsey Webster or Ryan Atkins is involved, who's going to win. And so I just think I think it's an exciting spectator event when it's done right, that I think if they were to team up with another ESPN or the like and maybe put one up on a weekend or on NBC or something, the sport in itself would get so much more attention. I think more people would enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why I like lean toward even Savage race because of their mandatory obstacle completion. Like you just don't know. And every rig is different. It's like always a surprise. Lee always has something up his sleeve. So I think that really just makes it really interesting, and it can change the podium for sure.
And it seems like the last 2 years, they've really got excited about the mystery hard rig. It's like when I did in 2019,
really cheese board.
Yes, because I did my first one in 2019, and it was hard, but they didn't have the secret one. And I've never done an elite event at Savage. I always do open waves because I haven't gotten to the 100% completion yet. With my open waves, I'm 43. I don't have the grip strength. That's why I go to the gym. I actually changed from Planet Fitness I've been going to Planet Fitness forever and a year, but I just switched to Crunch Fitness because my Crunch Fitness has a 40 rung monkey bar. And
Yep.
so now I have a place to work on my grip strength.
Yep.
I'm friends with Morgan Moose Wright from American Ninja Warrior. He has a ninja rig out behind his house that I'd go to every once in a while, work out on it. But just the ability to be able to go to the gym, and they have more CrossFit style area in their corner. And so instead of just doing weights and all that, I can go do squats and throw the 20-pound kettlebell at the rig. I can do farmer's carries. I can do the monkey bars and do more OCR grip strength oriented stuff, because that's what I have to work on. I got to work on my forearm strength, my grip strength. And we'll get to here in a minute. I want to talk about this year's Rugged Maniac in Tampa, because the first one I did was last year, and I thought, wow, that's pretty easy. Rugged Maniac last year was the first OCR I've done where I had 100% completion on obstacles, first time through. This year, they put so many barn doors before the first one that by the time you got to a first, monkey bar based, grip strength based obstacle, you were so cashed out from doing all the barn doors leading up to it that it did make it harder. And I did not have 100% completion on first time through this year. So, which was a good thing. I like the fact that they're making it a little more difficult, and it was fun. But we'll transition out here again. I know we're all over the place, but that's just the way I operate. So you did your Tough Mudder.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, wow, that's humbling, but this is fun. What was your second race?
Savage race, it would have been.
Yep. Oh, that's right. The one in Pennsylvania. And then at that point, you were all in?
Well, like I said, it took a while. That was back in 2013, and it took me
damn.
about the end of 2019 to really start taking OCR seriously. And I think my confidence boost was so even as a volleyball player, I never had upper body strength, unfortunately. I just never knew how to train that, especially as a female. I think it's just harder for us to acquire.
Sure.
I always had leg strength from just the plyometric aspect of volleyball and that type of stuff. And I really focused in, and it took a solid year and a half to kind of get where I wanted to be. And I think Sam Abbott would like to hear this, because I know I think he finally got Sawtooth after 7 or 8 years of hosting his own race. And I could totally understand that, because it took me 7 years to get Sawtooth, and I literally could have cried because I just never got it before. And that's that was my realization moment of I could do this if I just continued to train specifically for this. And then each race just got better and better.
I didn't do the early event this year. I did 2 of them last year, did both the Savages Florida. The second race last year was the furthest I made it on Sawtooth, which would have been my third race. No, my fourth race. I've done 4 Savages. And what I had discovered, I started doing research. One of the first things I had to research is, why is my hands cramping up and why am I getting leg cramps? And I found, that's called lactic acid buildup, and here's what you need to do to prevent that. And so I started doing those steps, and I don't get the cramps anymore because I do the things that prevent lactic acid buildup. But being 6'5", 218 pounds on a good day, if I'm not eating like an asshole. See, it's so crazy. I have the motivation that I can go out and run 3 miles a day, 4 or 5 days a week, go to the gym, but I don't have the motivation not to eat like an asshole all the time. So that's, if I could maintain, whether it's an NSNG diet or a semi-keto diet, I would probably walk around at 212 all day long, which would be too skinny. But because I eat like an asshole from time to time, 218, 215 is the best I can get at 6'5". But I don't have the best arm strength, but I was looking on YouTube, and someone made the suggestion, and perhaps someone who's listening who's never tried this can give it a shot. And I did this at the last 2 that I did, and I made it past the transition last year. I actually made it to the downslope, which is the farthest I ever made it. But the secret I learned, quote unquote, if you're not good at monkey bars or pull-ups, go backwards. So by going up the rung backwards, you're using a different. It's less of a pull up versus it's just the muscles are different. I don't know the science behind it, but I've done it. And prior to me doing it backwards twice, I couldn't even make it up 3/4. I could barely make it to the transition without just dying. But going up backwards, and then when you make that transition, you go longwise in your wingspan, and then rotate and go down forward. Just that simple motion of using your arms backward, it made it so much easier for me.
Yeah, and a lot of people do. They have that kind of backward style. I mean, some of the long, lanky guys, like a VJ, they'll just spam 4 of them, and they'll do almost like a bicep iso grip through it, especially if it's wet. So I mean, I think with anything, especially with grip stuff, I don't think I really appreciated how dedicated grip training has to be for this
Mm-hmm.
specific sport. And unless you're kind of doing that specific obstacle over and over and over again to kind of teach those muscles how to do that, like it's just going to be really difficult on race day. Um, that has been a huge part of my training. Like I'll take days where I basically just focus on, I call them like mock runs, where the loop in my neighborhood is just shy of a half mile. So I'll do a loop, come back and do, I'm fortunate to have a kind of a rig set up in my garage where I have monkey bars and kind of the attachments that I'm sure we'll talk about. Um, but just to be able to do those kind of as practice, that was the game changer for me. And like, working kind of the actual grip strength on the side. But I've also learned there's a difference between grip strength and grip endurance.
Yes.
And when you're doing something like a Savage race, I mean, that's all endurance. I don't care how strong your grip is.
Mm-hmm.
It has to last.
Well, the other thing that I'm trying to get to is when you watch these pros run, the Ryan Atkinses and the Lindsey Websters and the Ryan Kents and Woodsy and all them, when they do their monkey bar-esque style crossing, one, they're doing it fast, but two, their arms never go straight. It's almost like they're doing curls. They keep it in that, L shape. It's like they're going across almost as if they're doing curls above their head. Whereas
Right.
most people, you let your arms go long, and then you're wasting energy and you're slowing yourself down. So I'm trying to get to the point where I can keep my arm straight. But perfect transition time, because you said race and ready. And how I kind of stumbled across you, it was at the end of Rugged Maniac, and you were standing there and you had a race ready obstacle shirt on.
Yeah.
Kind of like the one you're wearing now.
It looks similar to this.
And I said, hey, I host a podcast and I actually interviewed Aaron a few months back. I follow him on Instagram because, kind of like you were saying, it's all about proper training. And I'm sure anybody who's done more than one or two obstacle course races, like, how can I set something up in my garage?
Mm-hmm.
How can I work on that goddamn Anchors Away? That thing that is my nemesis. I watch the videos. I just can't get the technique down. The math doesn't work in my head. And I'm that guy. I'm that guy standing there. Do I put on the front, the back? I can't do Anchors Away. And so I started Googling, and lo and behold, there's this company called Race Ready Obstacles over at racereadyobstacles.com, run by this great guy named Aaron Sabia, who was a welder in his past, as you guys learned from good old episode 17, who was in OCR and figured, hey, I can make this stuff at home so I can train. And one thing led to another, and he has a business, and he makes he's not just tack welding crap together in his garage and spray painting it purple. This stuff's powder coated. It's coated the same way a high-end my Parrot cages have this. I mean, he's doing top-notch quality stuff.
Right.
And you were saying you have equipment in your garage, and the fact that you are a Race Ready Obstacle ambassador leads me to believe that you have his gear, and that's one of the ways because you said, you work out at home, otherwise you'd have to find a 24-hour gym. How did you get set up with Aaron and Race Ready Obstacles?
So, just to kind of put my disclaimer on it, I don't ambassador for anything I don't believe in. I know there's
Sure.
like a lot of this kind of stuff on the internet now, people just trying to get publicity with ambassadorships and sponsorships, whatever. I only promote what I believe in, and I don't, honest to God, remember how I came across Aaron and Dana and Race Ready Obstacles, but it's funny that you mentioned Anchors Away, because that is the first thing I bought from them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was in Maryland and I got to that obstacle. It was brand new at the time, and I was like, I don't even know where to begin on this.
It's literally a physical puzzle, because
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, the easiest way to describe it is it's kind of ropes with a steel pole. If you think of an old gold miner's pickaxe, think of that hanging upside down, where you have the one part of the pickaxe facing towards you and one towards away, or almost like an anchor, as the name implies. And then you have rings, and your job is to swing from one pickaxe or anchor to the next through like 6 or 7 of them. And it's up to you. Do you put the ring on the front part of the anchor or the back part? How do you? It's physical. It's grip strength. It's chest muscles, and it's a puzzle. How do you get the momentum down? Do you run at it? Do you get on the pole, stop, swing? Do you skip the first one? It's literally it's a puzzle. And I've sat there and watched people do it, and I can't even transition from the first one to the second one. I can't figure out the math on it.
Yeah. So what I've learned with playing with that thing for a while now is it really is all technique.
Mm-hmm.
And I find the way that I do it does not burn out your grip. It does not burn out your biceps. But when I first bought this, it's kind of a funny story. I set it up in my garage and I was all psyched to try it out. And I couldn't even hang on
Mm-hmm.
like the first ring on the
Mm-hmm.
anchor. And I remember sitting there and like I almost cried because like, why did I just buy this? I can't even do this. And then
Well, not only did you buy it, you had to figure out how to mount the crap from your ceiling without your drywall falling down. I mean, it's not like you just screw in a eye hook in your drywall and Bob's your uncle. There's some structural ingenuity that has to go into this.
yeah, there is. I had a one of the physicians I work with. He happens to be extremely handy, and he actually built me a set of monkey bars that like
Nice.
traverses my ceiling. So they were drilled into the ceiling,
Perfect.
and the way that Dana and Aaron kind of ship their products, it comes with the straps to hang it.
Oh, I
So
got you.
I was lucky that it's the hanging process wasn't difficult. But it was just it took me 6 weeks. But when I really learned like how the technique really learned the technique in general, like it's funny how easy it is on race day. And I told them that like when I went back to Maryland that following spring, it was like a piece of cake because their anchors, I will say, are a little bit more difficult than race day anchors. They're bigger.
Yeah.
But it's really a technique thing, but it's something that you can't practice anywhere unless you have the anchors.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a game changer for me is all of their different grips because it's just stuff that you're not going to work or you're not going to really see anywhere else unless you go to a specific Ninja Warrior gym that has that type of stuff.
Which those are few and far between. Like I said,
Yep.
I live in Southwest Florida, and I actually have to go to a Ninja Warrior's house and use his gym out back, which I haven't been there in a while, which he's more than willing to allow me and other people who want to come train there. But yeah, it's definitely a technique because like on his rig, he has monkey bars that go up. No, he has stairs that go up and then down. And so on the side of the stringers, he has eye rings, like I was joking around about putting in your ceiling, but they're hanging off the side, and he has rings, and so you kind of go from one to the other. But instead of hooks, they're just little 3-inch eye rings, which are easy to slip off of. And so I would go over there and work on my strength that way. But it makes all the difference in the world if you have the ability to just come home and go to your garage, your basement, your backyard, whatever your geographical position allows you to do, to be able to work out on this stuff.
Yeah, and even if you have like a playground close to your house, the nice part about their grips is you could take them with you, and they just attach to anything.
Yeah.
You could just attach them to the playground monkey bars, so you don't even need kind of that nice home setup. You just need something within a short drive. You know what I mean?
So how long after you bought and trained? Well, let me ask you this first. So you bought your anchors away. What was the next setup you got?
The Savage Grip package. So that has like the twirly beards in it,
The
nunchuck
dead birds
grip.
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, for those of you not familiar, it's different types of rope and different stages of disarray. Some of them are like a mop.
Yeah.
Some of them are, different lengths. Some have knots, some don't. Savage is known for having like silky sheets hanging at the end of a rig that you got to get to that soak in water and muddy. When you started training on these, obviously you said anchors away was easy when you went back to your first race, but did you see an overall time change and obstacle proficiency after doing all that training on your first real race after you built your little rig at home?
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, it's been the biggest game changer for me. Just to be able to work kind of that dedicated, not only grip, but just like that obstacle efficiency.
Yeah.
That's so important. It's, obviously a time saver, but you don't want to burn yourself out just trying to muscle through anchors away. Whereas if you could find a more efficient way to do it, you're saving time and you're saving energy for, the rig.
And your body's used to it, so your heart rate's lower.
Right.
Like I said, I was out of training between business and all the fishing I've been doing lately. Like during that, as short as that rugged Maniac was, it's a little over 2 miles. And the fact that I've run 4 Savage races, the full races, I've never done a blitz. I was watching my Garmin like, I'm at the stop of, I'm at zone, I'm like creeping into zone 4. What the hell? I literally had to slow myself down because I had fallen off my workout regimen so bad. I was like, when I was editing YouTube videos, I took out all the running because it's just me panting and dying. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's like, whoa. But that's a huge thing. Don't Perfect example. You played volleyball, and then you ran before you got an OCR, and you work in emergency room, so you know better than anybody else. People who run a lot or do a lot of cardio, their resting heart rate on a normal day is so much lower than their normal everyday counterpart who doesn't do it.
Exactly.
And so when you're going home and doing this sort of stuff in your garage and your body's used to it, when you're out in the field, your heart rate's lower than it would be if you didn't do that training. And so that helps your stamina, that helps your breathing, it helps your overall feeling of not dying, which allows you to run quicker. And it's just all around it helps.
Yeah. I tell people all the time the hardest part, and actually probably why I respect OCR so much as a sport, is it really is like the whole picture. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have to be a good runner, you have to have good endurance and good stamina from a cardiovascular standpoint, but you also still have to maintain that strength. And it's such a, technique driven sport too. Like there's just nothing like it where you have to kind of be this all around good athlete in multiple different specialties within one sport.
And one of the things I thought about a while back, and especially I saw another TikTok where it was Spartan comparing their A-frame net to the one at Tough Mudder, which looked like it was 6 stories tall. Did you see that video? That thing was, I'm like, how
Yeah.
are people not dying on it? That thing looks, but I got to thinking, and this would definitely apply to cats who do American Ninja Warrior. When you're out there, you're in the mind state of, oh, I'm going to race. And you don't consider the potential harm or the height. Remember back in the days when you jumped off Davy Jones' locker? Now that's been kind of taken away.
Yeah.
There are certain things there that I'm sure that if you weren't at a race, going OCR, you're just, oh, I don't know, at a mud park in the middle of Pennsylvania somewhere where you might think twice about jumping off that 20, 30-foot tall thing. But in the
Right.
middle of a race, you're in race day mode. You don't think
Yeah.
about I could fall off this thing and hurt, or wow, look how high up I am. No, you're just got to get past this.
Right.
And
I think one of the things about my job that
I
I
can
don't love
imagine.
is it makes me very paranoid about all the things that
Hmm.
can go wrong. So that sometimes is a mental block for me. Like when they brought the Lachey into Savage Race Rig, that was such a mental mind game for me because I'm like, this can go wrong and this can go wrong and I can, tear my ACL here. I could hit my face on the bar here.
Hmm.
So unfortunately that's the one downside about my job. Like I don't have that mentality almost like when we're younger where we can't be injured or can't be hurt because we're invincible.
Yep.
So
And that's a real thing. I was talking on my World War II podcast the other night during World War II when they were recruiting fighter pilots. They intentionally looked for cats between the ages of 18 to 20 because most 18, 20-year-olds weren't married. They all had that I'm invincible. Whereas once they got married and had kids, now they had something to live for. So they took second guesses. They weren't on instinct flying. So they tried to intentionally find young cats who were single and just had that I'm invincible. So they just move with instinct and try to get the job done versus
right.
the way we all are now. I cannot do that Lachey because one, I'm 6'5". The low rigs kill me, especially when it comes to
Yeah.
monkey bar stuff. It's one thing to do a monkey bar, but when you got to do it where you got to bend your knees almost to the point where your feet are touching your ass, it makes it so much harder. It throws off your balance. It throws off the rhythm, the transition speed, everything. And so that's the ones who kill me are the super low rigs.
Right. Yeah.
And last year at Savage, the plastic tubes,
Holy roller. Yep.
the culverts, the teeter-totter ones, right? Not the whole,
Okay. Yep.
the first one I went into, I was too skinny. I had to find one that was wider. But you're looking at the outside, you're like, okay, if there's ribs on the outside, clearly there's ribs on. No, it's completely smooth, and so you're literally pushing out with your
Yeah.
body trying. And I'm like, okay, when's this thing going to tip? And it finally did. But so at what point did you kind of get hooked up with Aaron and start representing them?
So I had been posting like a content just pre-ambassadorship. Like I wanted people to see what this company basically had to offer. And I know a lot of people get frustrated with some of these obstacles and
Mm-hmm.
we don't know how to train them. So I was just kind of promoting on my own time for them, incidentally. And they reached out. They basically wanted to start this ambassadorship, and they wanted to start small. So from the female side, myself, Jess, and Carrie, they basically reached out to the three of us. And
Sure.
what I appreciated about them is, like, we're your kind of everyday people that do this kind of as a hobby, not necessarily as like
a career.
Like, we're not pros. Like, we're just like, we have, this is a hobby for us. This is what we enjoy. We're not Lindsay Webster, we're not Ryan Atkins, but we're still like, this is still a passion, and we still, do what we can to train on our level, I guess.
Which, speaking of Lindsay, it's going to be interesting to see where Spartan and Savage goes next year, because she's quote unquote retiring from doing the Spartan stuff.
Yeah, well, Lindsay was never much into Savage. She only, to my knowledge, only ever did like one race.
I think she ran one last year. I think it wasn't a Florida one, but no, she's not doing this. She's quote unquote giving up. I'm sure she'll do them occasionally, but apparently she has other plans. It'll be interesting to see where she goes.
Yeah.
But no, Aaron is such a good guy. We had such a fun time on that podcast. We went forever. I loved getting the information out about it because I love what he's doing. As far as my training regimen, I got a Lowe's bucket full of gravel that I look like a crazy person from my neighbor, lugging this 70-pound bucket up and down the street while wearing a 20-pound weighted vest and running with a 40-pound sandbag over my shoulder. Because I live in Florida, and I lived through 16 days of no electric and no water. And so I had empty sandbags that we got for flood control. So I literally went across the street, filled those up for sand. And so I'll carry those around the neighborhood. I'll go run a half a mile, come and drag the bucket for a quarter mile, run a half a mile, do the sandbag. I got a pull-up bar, which I still can't do pull-ups. And then we have a nice running trail, but once again, all the pull-up bars are super low.
Right.
And so I try to do them. But anyhow, so that's as far as my training regimen goes. Being in Florida, I don't have a basement. I could try to do something in my garage, but I talked to Aaron about that. I need to work on getting that stuff because I didn't do the Savage race this year because I knew I was like, at this point, I've done it 4 times. I could go out and do it and have fun, but I'm at this point now, I really want to get to at least 100% obstacle completion, even if I got to do it 17 times. But I just knew that I hadn't worked out. I wasn't in that position or shape. So I was like, I'll get back into my regiment and I'll sign up for the November race. So, and I have yet to do a Spartan, so I think I might toss that in there too. But as I was saying, congratulations, by the way, on your Rugged Maniac.
Yeah, thank you. It definitely came as a surprise for me as well. Pretty excited about it, though.
How many of those have you done?
Oh, that was my 4th or 5th one, maybe.
And you're part of the Rugged Maniac Mud Squad. How'd that come to play?
Yeah, so that was a new thing they did this year. They put out basically an open application on their Instagram and stuff, and you just kind of applied, and they picked. There's 9 of us, and we kind of represent like different portions of the country. So I'm like the Northeast section, because Rugged, I mean, they go from coast to coast. Like they're out west in Arizona, they go to Jersey, down to Florida. So they just kind of picked people who, were passionate about the race and just wanted to help us kind of promote their brand and their sport. And so we chat basically on a weekly basis just about different Instagram type related things. We try to get live footage at the race itself. So we went out for a second lap because one of the other Mud Squad people was there. His name's Rick, and him and I went out for a second lap. We spent like an hour and a half just like getting video content for them, because I think, and you can feel free to chime in on this, but I think people who are first starting out in OCR, they're just like so worried about it's always the same thing, like, oh, I can't run, or I would never be able to do the obstacles. And I think Rugged is the reason I like Rugged so much is it's a great introductory race for people who might be scared, or for people who just want to try it. But then they have that elite section where you just go, balls to the walls, you're going to run in red line for 5K. So you can really kind of be whatever you want to be that day. And I have friends that were so nervous when they first signed up for their first Rugged or Savage or whatever, and yet they keep coming back every year. So it's almost like they liked it as much as I thought they would.
And the nice thing about the Rugged Maniac is it's got the nice price. If you're, you've never done one, maybe you've never even ran before. And and I talk to people about this. It surprises me every single time. And there's one particular gentleman and his poor daughter. These people sign up for a Savage race. They sign up for a Spartan race, a Tough Mudder. Maybe they see an advertisement. Maybe they think, hey, this will be a fun family outing. And I don't know when they signed up. Maybe they signed up 8 months ago when the entry fee is $89, or maybe they signed up 2 weeks before the race when it's $130 a person. My point being is, even if you signed up a year ago and you pay $89 a person, that's a mighty investment. You would think people would train for this sort of thing. I'm not saying go out and die hard like you do, but at least walk around the neighborhood, jog around the neighborhood. It's like my second or third one. We weren't even we hadn't even made it to a real obstacle yet. I think maybe it was, and by the way, squeezing under 50-gallon plastic empty barrels is a lot harder than it looks. But anyhow, I think we were maybe a mile into it. And the dad was out there, and he had his like 8th grade, maybe freshman daughter, and she was already on his shoulders complaining.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys got a long day ahead of you. I'm like, you're not even a mile into this and you're dying. Didn't you?
Right.
You signed up for this, I've never seen anybody do a giveaway where they're giving away free entries into these things. I'm just thinking the amount of money to be here. You didn't at least jog around your neighborhood so you can make it 2 miles. I mean, even if they're doing the blitz, it's still 3 miles and 15 obstacle courses. But every time I'm out there, you always see the people who, well, I think part of it is too, I think a lot of people sign up who used to be athletic in high school, but then it's been 15 years, and in their mind, I did this. Yeah, I put on 10 pounds. It's more than that. It's the heart rate. And even when I train, I go out there and I realize I haven't trained enough. I've never felt like I've trained enough at the end of the race. I'm happy I did it. I feel accomplished, but there's always part of me. And a lot of this comes from the running aspect too. It's like, if I would have only not slowed down after Colossus and just ran, I would have cut 30 seconds off and I could have beat this dude who beat me that I don't even know. And that was the hardest transition for me being a runner. Because I ran a handful of 5Ks, a 10K before I ever got an OCR. I had to get out of that pace mindset.
Yeah.
I had to say, even doing open wave, because open wave, you're racing against yourself. But once again, sure, you can run fast. You can fail on an obstacle and skip it and run. It's open wave. That's great. But by the time you're doing your third, fourth race, you're like, okay, I need to not worry about my pace and worry about obstacle completion. Because once again, if you're not completing the obstacle, you're doing yourself a disservice. And so I have to remind myself when I'm out there, okay, lower your heart rate, slow down so that when you get to this next obstacle, you might have a better chance of completing it. And that was always the biggest, and it still is, hardest boundary for me and my mindset is don't focus on crushing a new, if you got to do 11-minute mile, that's fine, but do the 11-minute mile, 12-minute mile instead of the 10-minute mile so you can get through all the obstacles. And that's my biggest hurdle. That's what I got to do in my fight against myself.
Right. And I think kind of the ticket to OCR is really focusing on how to run a distance, basically temporarily stop to use a totally different body system to get through whatever obstacle it is, and then convert back into a running cadence without totally jacking up your heart rate. And that's the hardest thing. You go into an obstacle exhausted from running, and then you exhaust yourself on the obstacle, and then you have to pick up back running again. And that's like the key to training, I think. Like, I don't just like do distance runs. Like, I'm not a distance runner.
Sure.
I do short tempo runs into the garage to do an obstacle and then go back out running, because that's essentially what you're doing on race day. And that's a whole different style than just like running for 12 miles at the same pace, the same cadence, the same tempo.
And the other thing Savage has been doing, it's like their lumberjack carry keeps getting longer.
So I don't know if you saw my Instagram today, but I posted a video. I was running around my neighborhood like a crazy person with the 4x6 from Savage, perfect replica, because I know how they are.
Yep. And I feel the same way. It's like, why is this crazy guy running down the street with a bulletproof vest on, carrying a bucket? No, it's a weighted vest, and yes, but part of doing OCR, and which helps me because I'm a World War II reenactor. My days of worrying about what people think of me are long gone. Yeah. And so you get over that, you don't care what they think about. Why is this crazy lady running around with a 2x4? Why is she throwing a rake handle at a bale of hay with a nail stuck in it? But
Yeah,
yeah, this is the things you got to do. But
exactly.
now you have the interesting privilege of living in Pennsylvania, but you ran a race in Florida. How does that transition for you? Running a race in New Jersey or Georgia, or you're doing all these different races and all. Not only the height, people think of the incline and the altitude, but a Pennsylvania race in August versus a Florida race in March, or the rugged maniac in April. Humidity. Obviously, the key is run the earliest wave you possibly can, but sometimes you're not always that lucky. You get the 10 o'clock wave. How does the different heat, humidity, and incline affect what you do?
Yeah, so it was definitely different. I mean, Pennsylvania, we are definitely mountainous and we have very, technical terrain depending on where you're at. So I really try to incorporate, that style of running, but also just street running so I could work on speed. That kind of helped translate into Tampa because Tampa was flat as flat can be. But for me, the humidity, like I got to that, I don't know if you remember the section, it was like right at the end, right before the fire jump, where it was just like straight run,
Mm-hmm.
nothing in your way, like just, and that was like kind of a mental block for me because at that point in the race, like I knew I was in the lead and I didn't know how far anybody was behind me, but I was like definitely redlining at that point because the humidity was just like swallowing me, but I had to just like keep going. So I think training on hills and stuff helps for that because hills exhaust you so much more. So it almost kind of like translated into the exhaustion from just being so humid.
No, that makes perfect sense because I tell people who, you know, don't live down here, running through humidity is almost like you almost feel like you have a fishnet on you.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
literally feel like something's holding you down because your body's not sweating and cooling down the way it should because the humidity, your sweat's not leaving your body as quickly. You're not cool. Your body's not cooling down as efficiently as it would in a less humid environment, and you literally feel like you're being, like you said, swallowed up or dragged down. And so
yeah.
you you did that race in what 20,
27:17, I believe, was my time.
which came
And I
down to
did
like what?
fail Barzan twice before I was got over it. And I actually failed the warped wall once because I actually came into that race with a grade 2 calf strain. And I was so paranoid about going up that warped wall because that incline is what like really
Mm-hmm.
jacks up my calf while it's healing. So I went into the first run like really timid. And I was like, oh, this isn't going to work. Because I mean, it's an 11-foot wall.
I'm
It's,
I'm
it's no
glad I'm not
joke.
the only one.
Yeah.
Last year, boom, first time up. This year, I first time up, and and I made it the second time. Like,
Yeah.
how am I getting up the wall at Savage first time every time, but this one's a little lower, doesn't have the
I know.
ropes. I'm like, am I that out of shape? But no,
No, it was just something different, man. I don't know because I struggled. Like warped walls are kind of my thing, so I don't know what made that Tampa one so weird.
and shout out to you for being honest and doing the obstacle twice because there was no one there to enforce that. You're
Yeah, that's
basically,
like the one thing that I think Rugged's. I think they're a pretty big race series, and I wish that they would have someone to really kind of be a stickler with that. If
hmm
you read their website, though, they do say that you have to give it an honest attempt,
yes,
and it's kind of like, what does that really mean? I don't
one
know.
twice. That's the other interesting thing that Spartan does. We know they have their burpees, but every once in a while they'll have an obstacle that has a penalty lap. So instead of
Yeah,
doing 30 burpees, you've got to go run an extra distance, which kills down on the time. Yeah, I as we said, Rugged Maniac has that nice price, which is very inviting to first timers. Now, obviously, when you have the nice price, you lose out on certain features. But the one
right.
thing I wish they would do, which wouldn't cost much at all, at least for the elite wave, I understand you're not going to track everybody. The the logistics for putting the chips in the bibs aren't there. That's fine. I get that. But maybe for the elite wave, just get somebody with a big ass whiteboard and a magic marker. At least write the times up there for the people who are in the elite wave. Because I know that I did it in 32, 36 minutes, but I was really hoping to know where I placed in my age group. That was my whole thing.
Yeah,
I knew I
yeah.
wasn't going to win the elite wave, but I would really like to know how I. By the way, if you're listening, random dude from the Savage Race. Not Savage Race, Regimaniac. I didn't need you looking at me and saying, hey, us old guys are killing it out here. I understand I'm 43, I got a white beard, but when you look at me and say us old guys are killing it out here, I'm like, son of a bitch, I'm the old guy out here now. But yeah, this guy a couple years older than me, he's like, us old guys are crushing it out here. I'm like, son of a bitch, you didn't have to say that.
Well, didn't like the first place guy though, wasn't he in his 40s?
He was 42.
Yeah.
And he did that thing sub 20 minutes, I think.
Dude, yeah, that was insane. Like
he was doing like 5-minute,
6
6-minute miles.
Yeah.
That's like Ryan Atkins speed.
Yeah.
Maybe he was doing 7-minute miles, but it was like 2.63 miles, however many obstacles, and he did it in sub 20 minutes. And he said he was 42, and I was like, holy shit, that gave me hope. Then I realized, that also reminds me why I didn't do it, because I've been eating like an asshole and I've been working out. But that's the motivation I need. And that's, I don't do it as much now, but I used to heavily post photos on Instagram of the gyms and the runs and all that. And I remember my brother sent me a private message one time. He's like, oh, you've become one of those assholes. I said, no, it has nothing to do with that. I said, we live in a society where people love to tear people down. And so by posting these photos of me doing the gym, losing my weight and my weight loss, and it did happen because I was at when I worked in radio, I was standing in the old break room looking at the honey buns. One of the sale guys walked in and said, yeah, go ahead. Now it's an extra 45 minutes at the gym, because they want to tear. They're waiting for you to fail. They see all these photos. Oh, look at me, I'm at the gym. They think, yeah, I can't wait to call you out on your nonsense. And so it helped keep me honest. It helped make me walk that walk, because I knew that there's going to be people waiting to bust my balls for not living up to what I'm posting. So when I used to do that a lot, it would help motivate me not to give somebody the ability to say, yeah, what happened all the time at the gym? I see you're slamming on 3 large pizzas. So for me personally, it kind of helped me stay honest.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Just like I had a t-shirt from Grunt Squad. It said, reps, not text. Now, I would wear that at the gym so that I didn't want to be the guy that someone got a photo wearing a shirt that says reps, not text, yet on my phone. So it would prevent me. I got to the point where I wouldn't even want to change my Pandora because I didn't want people to think I was texting. So I would wear the shirt, throw my phone and keys away, and it kept me from going to go look at my phone, because I didn't want to be the, oh, look at this guy with the shirt acting all cool. So I would do dumb things like that just to keep me from slipping. But so how many races are you doing a year now?
So COVID kind of messed things up, because 2020 was supposed to be like my big year, but that has now been pushed to this year. So this year's pretty busy. Aside from like OCR, so I have, including Tampa, 3 Regimen events, 4 Savage events. Spartan right now is on the table. I don't know yet. That really depends on my leg. But also, I signed up for OCR World Championships up in Vermont, so that's in September.
Nice, congratulations.
Yeah, and then I have like occasional street races and like a half marathon here and there, just to kind of keep up.